Welcome everyone to the third round of the UzChess Cup 2024 happening in Tashkent. We have Jan Nepomniachtchi, the two-time candidates winner, two-time world championship finalist here on our screen. He's playing with the white pieces against Arjun Erigaisi. Nepo has had a slow start to the event. He lost to Javokhir Sindarov and then has drawn against Richard Rapport. He would be looking to stage a comeback here, but his opponent is the top seed of the tournament, Arjun Erigaisi. They start the game, and let's look at what Jan plays first move. He goes 1e4. And Arjun now has to decide what is his strategy going to be. He takes his time, roughly a minute on the clock, calms himself down and goes e5. So no perk defense for Arjun today, trying to be super solid with e5, adjusts all his pieces and will now press the clock. Jan goes knight to f3, brings his knight out. And what is Arjun going to play? He also brings his knight out to c6. And we have the Ruy Lopez with bishop b5. Arjun is a very big fighter, so you would not expect him to play something like the Berlin. He goes a6, but even in the main line of the Ruy Lopez, Arjun will go for something interesting, that is for sure. And it will be interesting to see what he chooses. He brings out his knight to f6. And now Jan castles. And Arjun takes on e4. He goes for the open variation of the Ruy Lopez. Now this is one of the sharpest lines in the opening. Very deep preparation runs here. d4 played. Now very important to notice that if you take on d4, rook e1 is super strong. Pins you there. So b5, pushing the bishop away. The bishop comes back to b3. And now d5 is the best move, which is what Arjun plays. Now d takes e5 is the main move in this position. He takes it, attacking the pawn on d5. So bishop e6 seems like the most logical option. Defends the pawn on d5. And now let's see what white does. c3 is one of the main moves here. That's what Nepo plays. And for Arjun, some options. One is to put the bishop here. The other is to put the bishop more actively on c5. He goes for the latter. The bishop on c5 puts pressure on the f2 point. Jan thinking for a bit, trying to decide on which line he should go for. And he goes for bishop c2. So some pressure here on e4. But the main idea is to provoke some exchanges after knight d2. Arjun short castles here. And now knight d2 is the main move in this position. And one thing to note here is that if you take on d2, something like bishop d2 is a small edge to white. White seems to be doing well. So Arjun goes for knight f2. This is already seen before, rook f2, and now an important move that black must play in order to justify the fact that he's giving up two pieces for a rook and pawn. Generally not a great idea, but with f6 it starts becoming much better, because look at black's development. And knight f1 is the modern twist in this line. Like e takes f6 used to be played before, but knight f1 giving up. Now bishop f2 important, because bishop e3 was threatened to break the pin. So takes, king takes, and fe5. So here we see that black has got two pawns and a rook for two pieces. King comes back to g1. And this seems like sufficient compensation, but if you look at the pressure here and the other knight coming here, white can still be marginally better in this position. By the way, they are following the game of Fabiano Caruana with the white pieces against Jordan van Foreest. And there are many games that have happened in this line. Bishop e3 played by Nepo. And Arjun plays rook a d8. Arjun still has 1 hour 28 minutes. Jan has 1 hour 16 minutes. Jan plays slowly, but it does seem he's in his prep. So it might be slightly misleading if Arjun, gets overconfident thinking Jan is out of his prep. Now queen e1, an interesting move. Wants to get his rook to d1 to put more pressure here. Bishop f5, offering a trade of the bishops. If you don't trade here and go bishop b3, I might go knight a5 trying to win this bishop. So he takes on f5. That this is still Caruana Jordan. And Arjun takes the bishop. Rook takes f5. Position is getting interesting. Knight could come to g3. He goes rook d1. Pressure here. Pressure here. Could be that this bishop could move and put more pressure on the central pawns. h6 played by Arjun. And now knight to g3 is the idea, I guess. But Nepo goes bishop f2. Well, he is planning this bishop g3 and knight to e3. This would be a deadly double attack now, knight e3 for white. And so Arjun pushes his pawn to e4. The first move, which is different from the game of Caruana versus Jordan van Foreest. And their rook f7 was played in the game of Caruana and Jordan. But e4 now played. Knight to d4. Will Arjun capture the knight here? Or would he want to keep the knight? Well, right now the rook is attacked, so he takes it. And pawn takes. Very interesting, because if you would have taken with the bishop here, then maybe black gets this huge phalanx of pawns. So he goes pawn takes. Arjun goes rook f8. Rook d2 played. Arjun has 1 hour 2 minutes. Nepo has 54 minutes on the clock. And queen to b4 played. The queen comes in threatening rook takes f2, rook takes f2, queen takes queen. So have to remain careful here as Jan. He first plays a3, asking the question to the queen. Queen b3. Arjun plays queen b3. So black has these two rooks on the open file, putting pressure on f2. The queen is well positioned. Ideas like a5, b4 are in the air. But white would like to sort of consolidate here. Knight g3, bishop e3. Just improve the position a bit. Rook comes back to f7. And now the knight jumps to g3. It's a very interesting imbalance that we have on the board. Very difficult to say what is better, the two rooks and the rook and two pawns, or two pieces. But this knight, if it could magically sit here, or this bishop, if it could magically sit on e5, white would get a great position. But for now, it's very tough. Very tough. a5 played. Arjun starting to make some progress. He's like, I can go b4. I can swing my rook over here. I can swing my other rook to a8. So Jan has to be careful. Knight to h5 played. 31 minutes for Jan, 33 minutes for Arjun. Goes rook f5. Well, maybe he'll come back to attack the rook. And now rook f7, keeping the slightly better position, or maybe you can say slight chances alive. But no, Arjun goes rook f6, and Yan gets up on the move of Arjun. Surprising. And Arjun now gets up after Yan is back. Attacks the rook once again. I think rook f7 with the idea of b4, creating some play on the queen side, is what Arjun can do. But he's going rook f5, knight g3. It seems like the players want to agree to a draw. Or is Arjun wanting to play? No, rook f6. He looks very... Yeah, he looks at his opponent. They then shake hands and then start analyzing the game. Let's hear them analyze, and if we could hear anything, you can watch them. But yeah, very, very correct game, and very well balanced.